Home, the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Move for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Canada and the rest of the world, you're listening to the Huckin podcast. I'm your host, Theo Wan from Kingston, or from Toronto, Ontario, living in Kingston, Ontario.
And I'm Danie Proby from New West, BC, and together we are your coast-to-coast guide to all things Canadian Ultimate. Speaking of Ultimate, I'm just going to kick us off. I was in Ottawa this past weekend at U24 Tryouts. It was one of the more fun Frisbee experiences for me because I got to see lots of folks kind of laying it out on the line that I have kind of seen grow up in Ultimate, and got to meet a lot of new other players that I hadn't really gotten to see play much in person. So it was a really unreal experience, and I cannot wait for the Vancouver tryout. Have you heard anything about it, Theo?
About Vancouver?
No, about the U24 tryout in Ottawa.
Oh, I was going to say Vancouver obviously hasn't taken place yet, but yes, Ottawa. I heard some murmurings. I did see the pictures that you posted, which was great because then for those who are curious, they can zoom in, do a little zoom action and figure out who was there. So, congrats first of all to all the people who are there. It's a feat to be invited. So I think, statistically speaking, you all aren't going to make it. Okay, that's just reality, unfortunately. I know, Danie, you wish you could take 70 people. You can't. So some of you should, whoever doesn't make it, take solace that you got invited, because there are people that didn't get invited, so it's like, that's kind of cool.
Absolutely. I think that for a lot of people there, of course, they want to stay in the upper group, so to speak, but it's always like an honor to be there. It's an honor to be able to play with the best in your age category. So I think that it was really hard to make decisions, and it's still not done, obviously. Like, there's a lot of footage we're going to be watching. We filmed a lot of the scrimmages and the drills. And we're going to be watching this weekend, CUUCs. So there's a lot more to be learned about these athletes. So it's not just the tryout that kind of plays a part. So, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit more about U24 a little bit later, but Theo, is there anything happening in your life?
I wish I had happier things to say from my Saturday, but if you've been living under a rock, you might have saw the biggest collapse I've ever seen in my life. I was working that day and then was watching it in the office, and it's a thing that I do not even want to repeat on the podcast. But it was a very devastating day. That's all I'm going to say, Danie. You were at the restaurant watching it. It was devastating. I had people messaging me, Theo, what's happening? I'm like, I know.
It was 7-0 to start, right?
Well, we were up 8-1 at one point. That's all.
Same difference, yeah.
Yeah, same difference, and that's all I'm going to say. I know Ella Hansen, super fan of Seattle Mariners. I know you're probably not listening to this podcast, Ella. You're slinging it out there on the disc golf course. But she sent me the probability map of what it was like when it was 8-1, and I think Toronto had like a 99% win probability at that point. And then that obviously starts to dissipate once we start losing, when we start giving up the lead. So, Toronto sports fans know this very well. So, I mean, life goes on, but, your boy was going to sell a lot of playoff tickets, and that's not going to happen now. So that's unfortunate.
That is unfortunate. I feel bad for you. But in more important news, I think we should head to the news because we're going to talk. Got some U24 announcements. We got some Worlds announcements, and we have a really big episode of our CUUC tournament preview. So we'll head to the news.
We now have breaking news.
Welcome to your news section. A couple things to announce. I mean, obviously, I'll talk a little bit about U24 tryouts, but before I talk about the tryouts themselves, we know where Worlds are going to be. Well, roughly. We know roughly that they're going to be in the UK, potentially around London. So there were fields, there was a different destination, I believe, originally planned, but then that something fell through. And so that's why it's kind of taken a little bit longer for WIFDF to announce. So They're kind of trying to figure out an alternate plan, but it's going to be July 1st to 8th, I believe, in London-ish, UK area. So very exciting. I did ask Brian Gissel once, I was like, what language should I start trying to learn? And he's like, English. I was like, all right. I didn't know he actually literally meant England. So hilarious. So another announcement, Beach Worlds. So this was supposed to happen last April and it got canceled due to teams kind of dropping out last minute. I know it was really close to other tournaments that were happening. So it's going to be happening in 2023, which was a surprise. I thought that they were just going to cancel it and we were going to see Beach Worlds return again on the normal 4-year cycle, but it's happening. 2023, it's going to be kind of in October, kind of over Halloween week, I believe, in Huntington Beach. So super excited about that. I'm sure there's going to be coach applications and all those types of things coming up. So if you were on one of those rosters, or if you were one of the people that were snubbed from one of those rosters, or maybe you didn't even try out, you got another chance. So get those beach sprints going, get those sand socks ordered from Amazon, and get training. It's not too late. So those are my quick announcements. We'll talk a little bit about the East Tryouts, just because, I mean, it's still fresh in my mind. It was a lot higher level than I was expecting. Like I expected like the top kind of group of athletes was going to be head and shoulders above the rest, but there was kind of like, felt like splitting hairs when we were trying to make some decisions about what groups for people to go into on day 2. The levels of the scrimmages on day 1 when everyone was mixed together were higher, and even the other coaches agreed, were higher than they had seen in other tryouts. So it's just a testament to all the people and folks that have been training since the pandemic started. Like nobody looks behind. Nobody looks like they lost a couple years of Ultimate. So whoever the teams end up going with, it's going to be super strong. And that's all I have to say.
Like I said in the intro, you should be very excited that you were there. And we're not going to, I could give Danie the like 5th degree and just like bombard her with questions, but she's got to balance the Huckin A hat and the coach hat. So don't want to give too many secrets away. Want to go quickly back to all the events you were talking about. There's another event that some people are excited about, which is an PAUC happening in the Dominican Republic. So there, some Canadian teams fired up about that. Maybe, I hope to be there. I don't know if you're going to go, but Dominican's a cool place. So that'll be fun. And, I hope to go to London. So, I've already talked to my contacts out there, say, hey, you need someone on the mic from Canada to go to England. I'm your boy. So we'll see what happens there, Danie. Maybe we'll be reunited in the UK. Don't want to say that for sure because it might not happen. There's life stuff and things. So that could happen. Possibility.
I'll put in a good word or words for you.
With who? Gissel?
I don't know. I got contacts in high places. So okay, I think that's it for the news. This is jam packed for the main event. So I think, Theo, I just want to acknowledge that we've come so far from last year where we did these preview episodes and kind of started generating buzz with the college age kids at this time last year. But I feel like we've grown so much and my knowledge of these teams is also like exponentially grown. So it was really kind of exciting seeing all the notes coming through and seeing the kind of picks contest responses and everything. So I'm really excited to dive into what's happening here. I know you're going to not be there either, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I will not be in appearance. Work has taken me away, so will not be there. Unfortunately, I wanted to go to San Diego, can't go there either. So Danie and I will not be there, but we'll be, I guess, there electronically watching streams.
Yeah, I will definitely be watching the streams and getting updates. I know lots of people are going to be there coaching, etc. So we're going to be with the know. Theo, are you able to kick us off?
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to hit the main event right after that. So stay tuned. No CBD ads coming at you like a Sunset CBD from Deep Look. We're just going to go to another ad. Be right back.
This episode has been brought to you by VC Ultimate. VC Ultimate has been producing custom uniforms and performance apparel right here in Canada since 1998. VC's sublimated gear is made from 100% recycled FlexLite fabric, and design services and product samples are both free. Get your VC jersey today.
This is Dave from Alberta Flatball Club, and you're listening to the Huckin A podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
All right, main event, folks. Come on. First of all, Danie, you talked about the picks contest, and I'm just looking at the doc. Like, come on. We got almost 100 responses within the day. Like, that is fire. And there are like some big names on this list of people who've done the picks contest, people playing university or coaches or coaches in general. I'm not saying coaches of these teams. So this is great. So if you haven't done the contest yet, you can do it by listening to our preview. Maybe that will give you a hand in making some of your picks. So unique tournament. And I love this because on Friday, there's going to be a bunch of teams trying to qualify. So that's super sweet. In years past, sometimes there's 2 bids, sometimes there's 3. In women's, there's 3. So Dalhousie choosing to play in Div 2. So that opens you up for 3 bids in women's. And if you haven't had a chance, you can go to Ultimate Canada's YouTube page and check out Mr. Fact Checker himself running through the pots and telling teams where they're ending up. So in women's, you have a bracket of 8, Guelph being the top seed there, and McGill kind of on the top seed of the other one as they meet. They actually won't be meeting, the losers will. So anyways, we'll go through it. Guelph, Regina, Queens, TMU together. Winner goes to Div 1. If you win that little 4 per team bracket, you win. And then also Ottawa, Waterloo, McGill, and Western. So Danie, you said you know more about the teams. So before we even make the picks, you got some heavy hitters in this group, and there's like 4 or 5 teams here, and I think that they could all make it, but that's not going to be the case. 3 of them are going to make it, and 2 of them aren't, or 2 or 3 aren't. So, what is your initial inkling here?
Yeah, I definitely am pretty hyped up on McGill at the moment. They have a lot of players that have played together on Venus, for example. They've added Nina from Iris, Prevost, and they have Joyzu, captain, but she definitely has suffered an ankle sprain recently, so they're going to be without her. But I think that they have so much strength behind them that I think that they're going to do just fine. I'm excited to kind of see them. Leanne Campbell's also super strong, Chloe Merritt and Gwinnell Patinode. I think that they're going to qualify. That's kind of my spoiler alert for that team. Another team I'm really excited about is Waterloo. How can you hate this team? Tiffany Zhang's on there. She was picking up with Sixers, U20 stud. She's been getting lots of playing time. She's played a little bit of mix. She's played all over the place. They also have Cynthia Deng, Jillian Zhu, and Maggie Trong kind of leading the squad. So again, a super deep team. I expect both of them to come out of this unscathed.
Waterloo pick, I like it. That's a good pick for sure. That's all I'll say. That is an interesting pick. But I do like it. So you got Guelph in there as well. I was trying to find out when they last won a title, or even were in Div 1, but they last won a title in 2014 if my sources stand corrected. So I believe Becky Thompson was on that team all the way back in 2014. So Guelph, 500 on the year, but a big semifinal loss at Easterns to U of T. That's got to bode well for their success. You can't forget about Ottawa as well in there. They only played 1 tournament so far. So they only played Easterns. Emma, hopefully I'm saying this last time right, Beaulieu.
Yep.
U20, you know her. Naomi Peterson got the height. So Ottawa could be up there as well. Don't forget about TMU, everyone's favorite, finishing 3rd at Steeltown. Easterns didn't go so hot for them. They finished 7th, I believe, defeating Waterloo, actually. So there are teams in the mix. Queens is in there too. So Danie, you've already said, who are your 3 teams that you got advancing out of this?
Okay. So I have McGill Queens, and Waterloo. I definitely wanted to have a spicy pick in there. I think Waterloo is 100% underseeded here, and so that's my kind of caliente pick. But I also think Queens is going to squeak through. I know that's also pretty caliente, but to not pick Guelph, to not pick Ottawa, especially because I know quite a few players on these teams, it was honestly pretty hard to pick. And if I were to redo the form again, I might actually pick something different. But I'm going to stick with my gut instinct and see where it can take me. How about you?
So I'm going chalky. I'm not going with the chaos. So I'm going Guelph, McGill to win their little group of 4, and then Queens and Ottawa to make it there, and they'll play in the game to go, in which the Queens Gales, I guess they're the paper bag princess, not the Queens Gales, but Queens. I got you advancing. So Ottawa on the outside looking in. Like I said, there's multiple teams that could be in there. But that's our Friday qualifier for women's. Kind of nice with the round number of 8. And it's the same here, Danny, in open, where this is a schedule maker's dream is all I'm going to say. You got 8 up here in the AA bracket, and you got 8 in the BB bracket. That is just a luxury right there. So schedules should be out eventually, made public. And you can, like I said, watch the whole thing. I'm not going to go through the whole bracket. But we're going to talk about some teams to watch out for. That's what we're going to do with this. We're going to talk about the top 8 teams competing for 2 bids. Like, that's insane. There's 8 teams that I think there could be more, but 8 teams in there that can make it. Only 2 do. First team to talk about is definitely Waterloo. You're spearheaded by Scott Graham. A lot of people know him, but they got some depth as well. Jack Park playing Union. Ben Labonte, I promise you'd get a shout out because you played really well at Easterns. I'm not sure if I gave you one last time, but I'm going to give you one now. Ottawa kid. They do lose some big time players for them, but you do the lose see out at Easterns, but I think this team has the pedigree here. So Waterloo's your 1 seed in the AA bracket, and Laval. Danny, before I even continue with Laval, did you see some of the comments on our do you remember this? It was our rankings, and Elliot Alwar, a big fan of the podcast. Elliot, we love all the takes that you have, but he was saying that Laval has a lot of club players, AUDL players, and they're better than Toro kids, and I think he was giving a shot at another team. So I'm not sure if you saw that, but I'm sure the Huckin A audience saw that.
Yeah, I think that whenever you're going to come at anyone and say stuff like that, I'm just excited for you to have the opportunity to prove it.
Well, the ironic thing is Elliot doesn't even play for this team. So, Elliot, you play for UDM, like Montreal, which we're going to talk about you, but you don't even play for Laval. So you're just, I get it. You're giving love for your Quebec compadres.
And
this
teammates from club.
Teammates from club, yeah. So the friends of his, some players to note: Vincent Genet, Antoine Rousseau, Olivier Bastien, they've all played with him, and no Charles Asselin this year for them, which I think is going to be a big loss because, as we saw at Worlds, he was tearing it up with Lab. So Laval, Waterloo, some teams to watch out for, as well as 2 more Quebec. Just you're going up the rankings here, it looks like, or you're really packing the high seeds. You got Sherbrooke, you got McGill. Sherbrooke, you got the Leonard brothers. You've had some up and down results. You've lost to McGill, a team that's also the 2nd seed in Pool BB there. McGill, I was high up on you guys, but the results have not come, Danny, is all I'm going to say. They have some U20 representation. Nathan Wu, does that name sound familiar to some people out there?
And one of them.
Calvin Colberry.
Oh, yes.
Hayden Stone, I know Colberry, I believe, was at Tryouts. I think I saw him in a picture. Owen Kolinsky as well. Big, tall cutter for them. Can McGill make it? Those are kind of the 4 seeds out there. There's some, the other teams waiting in the wings, U of T, Carleton, Guelph, and Western. That's the teams to watch out for, I think. One of those teams could potentially steal a bid. To even talk about UVic out there for you, Danny. So, that's sort of the Friday qualifier. You got teams that could squeak in. You got teams that have played each other. Like Guelph has beaten Carleton this year. Carleton's beaten U of T this year. And so there's a lot of mismatch of interconnectivity. Toronto even beat Waterloo in a game. So what do you got for these Friday qualifiers here. It's going to be, I wish I was there, honestly, for Friday. That's the funnest part.
I'm way less spicy on the male matching side. I went chalk here with Waterloo and Laval making it through. I felt pretty confident about that. I think McGill, if they peak at the right time, could be a fun surprise. Maybe Toronto as well. Yeah, I think that's kind of why I'm picking those two. I like the players that both those teams have, and I think it's theirs to lose.
Yeah, so Waterloo, I think that I don't want to say they're a lock because I don't think there's any locks because if things go to plan and I expect them to beat Regina in the first round, Guelph, you get a rematch against UVic and Guelph beat UVic last year to put them out of contention for Saturday. So a little rematch, love that. Waterloo then would match up with Guelph, and if Oscar Stonehouse is back for them, which I believe he will be because he wasn't there at Easterns, Guelph's a dangerous team, but I still think Waterloo's got it. So I got Waterloo Sherbrooke with Waterloo taking it. And then, I was agonizing over this pick because it's two Quebec squads I think are very strong. But Laval, I'm going to go with you. So I'm not spicy as well. I know we're not the same on the picks, but Laval, I think they have the pedigree. And McGill, I had you high up and you've kind of, they've been up and down, right? They were third in the Quebec tournament, the qualifier that they had a chance to get a bid. They did end up beating Sherbrooke in that game for third, which is good. Fourth at Easterns. We'll see what happens. So that sets up our Saturday, and there's going to be some good matchups here. I believe some of the games will be streamed, so you can tune into that, of course, to check it all out. We're going to start women's division. The thing here with the preview now that's going to be different is that we don't know the teams that are obviously going to be in the pools from the qualifiers. Danny and I have our picks, but we're just going to talk about the top 5 teams for women's and who they are. So we're going to start with the people's champion, everybody's favorite, the number 1 seed, McMaster. Danny, can they do it? Can they win this year? Coming in second last year.
I feel like at this point we're not legally allowed to bet against McMaster. I feel like it's not okay anymore. So I have a good feeling they're going to go super deep into this tournament. I would not be surprised to see them make it all the way to finals again. So they're a team to watch. They're super exciting. I don't think they have a lot of stars. I think that's what makes this team excellent. So they placed second last year, so we absolutely love that. And a lot of their players do play club, but it's not like the Brit Dos Santos is on their team leading it. It seems like they've done a really good job over the last couple of years to build the depth of their roster, and I think that's why they end up having a lot of success these tournaments where there's lots of turnovers. All the points are really grindy. They can rely on lots of different people, so expect them to go super duper deep.
Yeah, of course, with this tournament format, everyone makes the quarters, but you want to set yourself up with a good quarters matchup. You certainly don't want to, face a top team early. You talked about Brit Dos Santos, so that brings us to the number 2 seed U of T. They came third at Steeltown, so people are like, McMaster won Steeltown. Is U of T going to be good? But there's a caveat there because there was a tournament happening, so they were missing some of their players. This year, no Brit Dos Santos, no Reeve Chan, but they still got some Sixers out there, Sarah Marr, Jade Huang Fu. Unsure of the status of Tayama Lyle, who, like I mentioned previously on the podcast, was not playing at Easterns. And they got some of your Vancouver young bloods out there playing and slinging the disc. Alicia Zhang, Shannon Wu, Solana Wong, some big recruits for them. Are they going to repeat?
I think so. Again, bit of spoiler alert. I think their ceiling is winning the whole thing. So again, super deep team, but a little bit more star power kind of leading the way. I'm really, really excited about Toronto. Coming in at the number 3 spot, we have Victoria from Vancouver Island. We have no Arabella Brudney from what I heard. So obviously a stud from U20 on the women's side, but players like Monica Devonshire are going to be coming back. And a lot of them did play together sort of in club and everything, but I know they struggled a little bit at Western. So I think they're vulnerable. They finished 4th in 2021. So I think they might be a bit of an overseed here.
Oh, for all the people out there that's saying Danie only cheers for the BC teams, you just heard her say that a BC team was overseeded. So she just gave me the eyebrows, like, you know what's up. So Victoria, maybe you're overseeded. That could be the case. A team that I think is heavily underseeded is Manitoba. I understand that they're not coming in from a strong region. They beat Winnipeg in the finals, 14-10, great. 29-point diff in pool play, come on. 5th in 2021. Last year, they did beat Toronto, but they did lose to McMaster. So, we can talk about 2021 results, but it doesn't, like, a lot of these teams change. Anyways, I've heard you got to watch out for the Chos. Is that correct, Danie?
Yeah, they're both at U24 Tryouts. They are ferocious. They're fun. I think that they're studs for sure.
And they got some U20 players in there as well that you got to watch out for. Alexis Gagnon and Millie Wright. So they're adding. Well, I think Alexi was on the team last year, but Millie Wright is a rookie coming out of that Mofo system. Got to see her play. Was a big part of that squad. So Manitoba, you're out there on the 4 seed. And we got some more undefeated teams to talk about because that's going to be Laval coming in at 5. They won both of their tournaments, the one kind of more preseason Quebec tournament, and then the actual finale, defeating McGill, both 15-3, then 11-10. You finished 7th in 2021, and you were champions a few years ago now, looking back at our notes here, 2017, 2018. So can the championship pedigree of the team carry them forward? Some of these players, of course, playing club in Quebec. And I think there's someone doing McMaster where there's not like a big name sticking out to you, like a McGill, for example, where you see like a Nina Prevost who plays for Iris, who a lot of people know has played Team Canada. Sometimes the teams can pull it off, is all I'm saying. You don't always need the star power, dude.
Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I'm super excited to see who does end up qualifying and how they can actually stack up, because just because they didn't qualify the first time round doesn't mean that they're not going to make a big splash when they make it into Div 1. So, I mean, I'm going to be following along as best as I can. Theo, should we move on to our picks?
Yeah, picks. We're not going to pick quarters, obviously, because quarters is automatic for the teams that qualify. So semis, and the way my bracket lines up, you got Manitoba, Laval on one side for me at least, and then Toronto and McMaster. So I got to ride with Manitoba. I've talked about them. We've hyped them up in the power rankings. So I'm throwing Manitoba, and this is the spicy pick: McMaster, U of T. Theo, are you gonna go pick against McMaster after you said that they were hype? I am not going to do that. McMaster, I am picking you to beat U of T. Let's go. And I'm picking you to win from what I believe, I could be wrong, but your first ever university national title. Marauders, stand up. Let's get excited. Come on.
I'm happy that we have something different. I think that makes it way more exciting when I eventually beat you and can rub it in your face. So I have Toronto overtaking McMaster, and I have Manitoba overtaking Laval. That's kind of how I saw it going. And then I have Toronto winning in the finals by 1.
Hey, oh, you're going score? You're going score? Well,
a little bit. I want to be extra accurate.
Well, I got to go score here too. I'm going to say it's McMaster by 2. So there you go. Those are our picks. And as we always say, if we pick you, you got to live up to the hype. I'm a little nervous because McMaster feels off the haters. That's what the vibe I'm getting. So if I pick them to win, are they going to just crumble under the pressure of the weight of expectation?
Why do you think I'm saying UVic is overseeded?
So you were just doing that as like a meta move is what you're saying.
I'm not saying I'm not, but I'm not saying I am.
Oh, meta move. Anyways, we're going to move on here to the open division. We got 6 teams that have qualified. Your number 1 seed is Montreal. Of course, they won last year. A big-time player for them is not back, is Malik Auger-Samar. But they got other players out there. Charles Guay, Elliot Arwar, who we've talked about, Ralph Salvas, Yuan Kohaner, who I think a few of those names are at U24 Tryouts. So, they're big time players.
I think all of them, with the exception of, Malik was there, but all of them are at U24 Tryouts.
So, I just named their top players, and they're all there. So their results, you beat McGill 15-3. I still don't know how that happened, but we got to talk about that. And then in the final of CUUC, they did beat Laval 12-11. So, don't know what happened that game. They did beat Laval by a much larger margin earlier in the year. So this team's got the tools to make it. A team from Ontario that I think also has the tools to make it is Queens. They're undefeated. I'm looking at this list. 4 of the teams here, they're undefeated on the season. But Queens, they've had to go along the long, winding road. 2 big tournaments in Ontario, first both times. They won Steeltown over Waterloo. They beat them again in the final. They're undefeated. They got Dax Miller. They got Will Dixon. Tyler Gunasekara.
No, that was so close.
Was that wrong?
Gunasekara.
Gunasekara. Oh, I was close, buddy. Sorry, Tyler. Pete Galbraith, their coach, they were second in 2021. They lost to Montreal. There's no Wilkie Lewis or Eli Park on this team. But this is a team that had to deal with a lot of competition. So will they be battle tested compared to some of the other teams coming in from the west side of the country?
Speaking of the West, we have Manitoba. They're technically in the West Division, actually. So there are 18 players. Yeah, there are 18 players on this roster that have played for Strike when they won. And some of these players, like Stephen Carew, won CUCs with Strike, say CJUC with Mofo as a coach, and is now going for it for a third in 2021. So they won in their final 15-8 against Alberta. So again, they haven't been super battle tested, but when you have that many players on the team that have been playing club together, I don't think it matters too much.
Yeah, people say, why am I hyped on Manitoba? But just think about the logic here. Like, Mofo just won. They're going to get some players from there. General Strike just won. Like, it just kind of makes sense. And if they pull this off, I don't know, someone in the YouTube comments somewhere, just say, if a team from one city has won Club, Open, Junior Open, and University Open all in the same year. I don't think it's ever happened.
That would be pretty crazy. Speaking of things never happening, UBC is going to come out and crush it. They didn't do it last time, but they're going to do it this time. So can they avenge their finish last year? I know that it feels very personal for them. They're kind of in a weird spot where this tournament doesn't really matter. Like, their goals are in April. Their goals are May. And so they're kind of in a weird spot whether they're deciding to develop throughout this tournament or whether they want to play to win. So I think that will kind of eventually make a difference in how they finish in this tournament. So they have no Vince Bullock. They have no Ty Barbieri anymore, but they have Devin BP is returning. Lots of people added to the coaching staff. So they have a new influx of energy and momentum. So Edward Guo and Ari Nedekman. In 2021, they came 7th, and that was obviously very disappointing because there was a lot of hype around them making it to finals. And I know some people were a little sad about it. I don't want to name anyone specifically, but this team's obviously deep. Half their roster is either Red Flag or Furious. They've been playing a lot together. I expect them to improve upon last year, but you never know. If it's like windy and all that stuff, they just didn't seem like they could compete like the East teams. They weren't ready for it. So hopefully they can turn it around and prove me right.
Interesting strategy, because Vic, you said they're underseeded, but UBC, would you say they're under or overseeded, Vic? Would you say UBC's underseeded?
Based on how I did my picks, I guess in theory, I think so, but not by much.
Hey, you heard it here first, and we're gonna go to the number 5 seed Ottawa. They've been battle tested throughout the year, so that's where I think a team like that differs. They've had to squeak out that second place final victory over Waterloo. They also had to beat McGill in a tight game in the semis. They did lose by 4 to Waterloo earlier in the year in Steeltown. And a few points to Queens in the semi at Easterns. But they got some. I saw Ottawa like jerseys in the picture, so I know for a fact that there were U Ottawa players there. Had some players who played Outlaws or Phoenix. The fact that they were able to fight through going down a few breaks against Waterloo and then winning is huge. And, I could name a lot of players on that team, but I'm just going to tell you one name to keep an eye out on. That's Cameron Kennedy. He had a big year for the Outlaws, and I think he's going to do a lot here for this team. And now the last team that we know for sure that is going, that I predict, I'm already going to say it, is going to come last, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Is Dalhousie. So you defeated UNB. You went undefeated in this co-ed tournament, but they added some firepower. Hey, they got some Toro players. They added some people, but it's tough sledding out there when they're not getting the same type of players that have been polished and played club in the summer or juniors in the same way that other universities get. So Dalhousie, we love that you're here. We love that UNB's also coming, by the way. So love that. Going Div 2. We haven't talked too much about that, but that's where we see it. So everyone's favorite part of the podcast, of course, is picks time. So we're going to go to that right now. Same caveat as for women's, semis only, finals, because we don't know. Everyone makes quarters. So Danie, I'm going to give you the honors and let's find out, what is Danie going to be picking for this tournament? Let's go.
Okay, so I have Manitoba, Queens, Montreal, and UBC making it into semifinals. Are you checking to make sure that makes sense? Yes.
Well, it's based on the way that you did your Friday qualifiers, because, yeah, it could all be, thrown astray based on quarters. So, yeah, I trust that it makes sense.
Okay, sweet. I have Manitoba versus UBC in finals. I got called out for being a homer, but I don't have UBC winning, so not too much of a homer. I have Manitoba taking it down. You just can't argue against having that many players play club, because a lot of these other teams are just trying to learn systems quickly before the tournaments happen, whereas all of these players have been playing together. They kind of already have chemistry. You can't deny that that's a huge advantage, so I expect Manitoba is going to take it by 3 in the finals.
Oh, that is... that's a big margin. And before we get fact checked by Manitoba people, I was told 18. It could be 17, could be 19. It's like within that range of a lot.
Sure.
That's all we're going to say. A lot of players. So in my semis, I have, I'm going chalk here. But I have one team losing in pool play, so I think that's why it sets up a 1-2 semi. So Montreal, Queens. Queens, I got you going. I got you going in the final. And Manitoba, UBC. I got Manitoba going, and Danie, I guess we're not going to differ on this one. We both got Manitoba winning, so perhaps that's going to jinx them. But Manitoba, we got you winning this one. So those are our D1 picks. You can obviously feel free to disagree with them. That's fine. You can also do the picks contest like I mentioned. And, we got to give a little love to D2, because there's a lot of my favorite teams, the B squads out there, grinding, playing this tournament. So you got to love that. For those teams that don't make it to the Friday qualifier, they'll drop down. So I'm looking at even the women's schedule for D2. There's a lot of teams out here. Dalhousie's going. We know Regina's also going to this tournament. They're going to go through the qualifiers. Laurier out here, Sherbrooke. There's a lot of representation of different universities. Love that. Same thing with Open, especially more B squads happening. You got Algonquin College fielding a squad. Like, they're going to have some, believe one of the Belanges or two are playing for that team because they attend Algonquin. So there's going to be some female matching players on this Algonquin side. Same thing with Trent, where they have some female matching players. They don't have enough to field a women's team. So the fact that they're giving these female matching players opportunities, love that. And Alberta's coming. I didn't know that until I saw the schedule. But Alberta's making an appearance. That's kind of cool.
That is cool. I think it's so good for the sport. It's so good for these schools to kind of have this thing to look forward to. And you kind of never know, like this, sometimes when you have these big events where, say, you have like a new recruit on your team and they just have such a good time that they train and maybe they play in the summer and then they come back. And that's kind of how you start and establish strong programs at colleges, is by taking a risk, taking a leap of faith, and kind of investing in a tournament like this. So it is really exciting to see such big geographic diversity.
Let me say this last thing to the teams that don't make it to D1, because I know I hear the grapevine and I understand this, that if your team doesn't make D1, it's like, oh, like why do you even, like, what's one to play in D2? I'm telling you right now, Div 2 is going to be very competitive in both divisions. We talked about teams that are going to compete for the chance both in women's and open, like multiple teams. So it's going to be like tough to even win the Div 2 title. I'm not saying it isn't in other years, but I think this year particularly, there's a lot of teams that could be Div 1 that aren't. So get excited for Div 2 as well. And I guess, off the cuff, Danie, I'll give you some time. So I will make some throwing on the dartboard D2 picks here. And as I'm doing that, I'll let you do the same. So for women's, with the teams I don't have qualifying, I'm going to pick, I think, TMU. Are they going to get to the final? Waterloo? With my pick, the way I have it set up, I'm going to have Waterloo and Ottawa in the final, because I think those are the two next best teams. I haven't worked out all the math, so I'm just throwing on the dartboard here. But Waterloo and Ottawa, I think, are the two next best teams, so I'm going to pick them. In open, there's a lot of options. A lot of competitors. I'm going to throw Guelph into the final, and they're going to play a team that got eliminated in McGill. So Guelph-McGill final. I'm going to pick McGill to win Div 2 in the open division, and I'm going to pick Ottawa to win Div 2 in the women's division.
So in the open division, I have a feeling that a couple of the teams rather that I didn't pick, because I went, they're just below the number one seeds coming out of the Friday Qualifier. So McGill and Sherbrooke, I would expect them to be in the finals, and I expect McGill to take it. And then on the women's side, I think this is kind of where it's a little bit more obvious, because I kind of didn't pick like the number one seed out of Friday Qualifiers. So I think it's going to be Guelph and Ottawa, and I think Guelph is going to take it based on just their track record this season. It was definitely a risky non-pick for me. So if I don't pick them, I think they're going to cakewalk it all the way through to a championship in D2.
There you have it, folks. That's our CUUC mega preview. Do appreciate you joining us. Danie, any final thoughts before we, of course, plug our socials? We know we got club next week. I don't even know how we're going to pull this off, because Ultiworld's going to be preparing for Club Nats. You're going to be flying out. I'm going to be busy. We're going to figure out if we can. Last year we had trouble with this. Do you remember how we're trying to do the recap episode? So we're going to try to make it happen for you, but no guarantees is all we're going to say. Club Nats is coming. Get pumped up about that too. So any other final words of wisdom for the Huckin' A audience here, Danie?
Yeah, I think when you find yourself in those really grindy points, say it is raining this weekend and it's been 10 minutes, just remember that if you're able to find it within yourself to continue to dig deep when you're on those points, winning those battles is more than winning 1 point, if that makes sense. So I know it's hard sometimes to kind of finish out those points really strongly, especially when you're just gassed, but just like give it an extra 100% for another 10 seconds on the mark. Do one more refocusing of your mind so that if you can get that one break or that one upwind point or whatever it is, because those long grindy ones sends a message to your team and the other team. So do what you can. Whenever I'm on the sideline of my D-line, like holds a team when they're trying to end zone for a really long time and then they eventually get a block, I go crazy. It's so sick. So be those athletes, be those teammates, hype each other up. I think in general, tag us in anything you share. It makes it so much easier for us to kind of follow along with what you're doing. So tag Huckin' A on Instagram. Good luck to you. I'm going to be obsessively following along.
I just got an idea for a new segment, honestly. Coach's Corner with Danie Proby. Come on. Who wouldn't want that? You got so much wisdom out there in the brain there, Danie.
God.
Like, that was sick. That was good. So if you like that, make sure you like and subscribe on the Ultiworld channel. Put it in the comment. We want Coach's Corner. with Danie Proby.
Oh my God, please don't.
And maybe we'll make that happen. No guarantees. Like I said, there's no guarantees.
No.
So yeah, follow us on socials. We're on the hashtag road to 3K now. So make sure you do that. Join the picks contest, like we said. Good luck to all the teams going. Dress warm. It's always better to dress warm, and then you can layer down than being unprepared. So we know that CUUC can be very cold. BC teams, make sure you pack well. Manitoba as well.
I think if well, I'm going to say goodbye too, but if you head to subscriber only section, we're actually going to break down where the picks are at right now for funsies. We're just going to give you a little preview of like where it's at. We expect that there's going to be more entries coming in, but if you're curious to know what the people are thinking, we'll give you a little sneak preview. So we'll see you in the subscriber only section.